I'm Sarah Seagar from Experiential Learning Depot. Do you ever get asked to do project-based learning? Maybe by another parent, maybe by a colleague, a principal, a director, admin, whoever, and your first thought is, how am I supposed to do project-based learning without reinventing the wheel? It's a great question, but the short answer is you don't, because the wheel has already been created. Let me show you what I mean by that. How can I do PBL without reinventing the wheel? That's what this video is all about. I don't look at PBL as starting from scratch every single time. You're not inventing something new with each PBL. You're decorating the wheel. The project-based learning framework is that wheel. It's already designed to guide your students through inquiry, collaboration, creativity, and real-world learning. You get to customize it. That's the fun part. You're driving questions, the real-world problems students tackle, their final products, how they share their work, and who they work with. That's up to you and your students. This is the framework. It's not linear. There are just these components of what makes a PBL what it is, and how these pieces fit together like a puzzle is that framework. Here are the main parts of that project-based learning framework you can mix, match, and reuse. Let's go over each one of these individually. First, there's a driving question. Look at the driving question like a guidepost. It helps outline the experience, highlights the topic or problem, and gives students a clear direction. It's there to spark curiosity and provide focus, not to define every step. I often instruct the driving question itself at the end of the design process when I kind of already have some of these other elements figured out. There's sustained inquiry in project-based learning. It's about digging deeper, going beyond surface-level answers. These are the guiding questions that help students uncover the meaning behind the driving question. This kind of learning is sustained because it takes time to investigate, reflect, and make meaningful connections. There are authentic learning experiences mixed into project-based learning. This could be fieldwork, interviews, investigations, attending community events, experimentation. I've done all of these with students in PBLs. These experiences are real world and go beyond textbooks and online research, and often go beyond the classroom. They don't have to, but it's nice to get outside the walls, these constricting walls of an academic setting. Innovative final products. These are things that do something, show something, or change something. The final product isn't just a way to show what students learned. It serves a real purpose. It helps solve a problem or provides value to a real audience in an authentic context. And then there are authentic presentations, and this to me just screams project-based learning, where students share work with people who care, are relevant, or who benefit from that final product, not just handing it to the teacher or presenting it to the class. And then there's always community partnerships of some sort. So you might collaborate with a local organization toward a shared goal, or seek feedback from professionals, or connect students with community experts who can offer insight, materials, unique learning environments, or specialized knowledge students wouldn't otherwise have access to. So let's look at this awesome project-based learning example that's kind of been written into this framework using these elements. So students are going to use geometry to design functional, welcoming, and inclusive public spaces. They're going to dig deep, ask a lot of questions, get out there and do some field work, and maybe measure the playground and talk to people, interview. They're going to design a model of a public space of their choosing, and then share that with somebody who can do something about it, or who's relevant, or has pull or push when it comes to using these models for the greater good. So they might share it with a local planning commission or school board, and maybe partner with urban planning departments or architecture firms or nonprofits that work with disability rights. These awesome elements of this framework come together to make this complete puzzle. Now let's talk about how to make this even easier. So the strategy we've already talked about is using a ready-made framework so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is there. You already know how to use this ready-made framework, so don't wing it. Follow a structure that walks you through the phases. Use this framework as your roadmap. You can just kind of plug and play your custom ideas into each element like I did in this slide before. Strategy 2 to make this even easier is to co-create, or better yet, let students create and lead and design these experiences. Seriously, let them do some of the heavy lifting. Give students input and choice in some or all of the elements of a PBL design. They can do it, I promise you. I've seen it over and over and over and over again, especially with your guidance. They become the directors of learning and you're the facilitator. Students can brainstorm driving questions, choose their own products, help decide what problems to solve, and more, so much more. In time and with developing skills, your students can design every element of the PBL if you want them to. You don't need to be the only creative brain in the room. And the best part about this, the best part about student-led learning, whether it's with PBL or in some other way, is that because students have input, because they have choice, because they're invested, they're more engaged and intrinsically motivated to do the work and to make the impact. Strategy 3 is to repurpose what you already teach. Start with a standard or topic you have to cover and wrap a PBL experience around it. Don't build from nothing. Build from what's already on your plate. I have another YouTube video dedicated to this concept of designing a PBL around something like standards. So go check that out if that's something that you're interested in. Start small. A mini PBL is still a PBL as long as it has these elements of the framework involved. You don't need a 2-month extravaganza to get the benefits. Keep it tight and focused and let the framework do the work. The benefit of working around this framework is that it's flexible. If you only have 2 weeks to focus on a PBL, design the PBL in a way that fits that timeline. If you want to have students slowly develop skills building up to big student-led authentic PBLs, you can do that. Strategy number 5 is to let others inspire you. A lot of my PBL ideas come from simple everyday moments, sometimes something a student said, something I notice about what matters to them, or even just a random observation during the day. Sometimes I see a non-PBL teacher do something kind of cool, and I adapt the concept into a project-based learning experience. Let's take a look at another example. So the driving question here is, how can we support local pollinators in our urban community through education and sustainable garden design? This is one of my favorite PBL ideas that actually came from home. My 5-year-old was deep in a bug obsession, and together we found a citizen science project about bees. And that got me thinking about how we could support pollinators in our own community. That simple moment turned into a driving question for my own kids at home and later used with my high school students at school. What started as a backyard curiosity became a meaningful real-world learning experience. My kids and I designed and actually built a certified pollinator garden in our front boulevard. My students, my high school students, created the designs, published them, and distributed them to residents in the neighborhood and local garden centers. We didn't actually build it, but we didn't need to because all of those elements were still there. I highly recommend taking a look at some examples on my blog or check out the ready-made PBLs in my resource store. I've added links in the description. I also have a comprehensive PBL course called PBL Teacher Academy that gives you all of this. The training, the resources, the support, and more. Check that out if you're looking for a deeper dive with me as your guide. So no, you don't need to reinvent anything. The PBL wheel is already there. You just get to decide what it looks like when it hits the road. Thanks for watching. Keep it simple, lean into what matters, and remember PBL doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. I'll see you next time.